Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 541, recorded live on Saturday, December 8th. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have returning to the show, Asheras. Welcome back, sir. Say hello again now that I've unmuted you.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, there we go. Production things. Talking and doing production things at the same time is fun. Screenshot of the week. Woodpile makes an entrance in the 393rd screenshot of the week. Thanks for paying for sending in this week's screenshot. I believe that's Amarath.
Is it? Oh yeah, because of the floating city there in the background. Is that what you're thinking, or?
I was kind of looking at the left at the flaggy stuff.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I like the way he silhouetted himself with the whatever that is, a sunset or sunrise or whatever's happening there.
Does the sun ever set and rise on Shamarath?
I have
Interesting
no idea.
Question. Lore experts, please write in.
It's always on fire, maybe. Who knows?
Right. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website, DDOCast.com. DDOCast is hosted by CyberEars, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next weekend. You can catch us, you can stay updated by following us on social media pages or our website, DDOcast.com, with our calendar. On the podcast this week, our topic will be killing time. That'll, if you're watching this live, that will not be, probably we'll be recording that separately. But we'll start our killing time kind of guide, as it were, with Voodu and maybe one or two others. We also have a lot to talk about. Missed a week last week, so we got some extra community news and game news up. There's a lot of fun game news to talk about. So, shall we begin? That'd be great.
Let's go.
So, just a little weird. So, while we were gone, Lemania had round 2, and I'm going to, even though Update 41 did hit live this week, we're going to kind of talk about the Lemania part, just so I can kind of highlight what was wrong, and then later we'll really gloss over the release notes that have already been in there. But some things that, so Threads of Fate, which we'll talk about a little more later, they added 2 new things that you can get for those. You can get +2 to +3 versions of all of the Remnant Tomes for 250 of the Threads of Fate, plus 10,000 remnants. You can also get +3 to 4 versions of those tomes for 1,000 Threads of Fate and 12,500 remnants. And then they added a cosmetic crown at a cost of 2,500 threads.
Was the crown already there, but they actually brought the price down? Because I thought there was a crown in there that was at 5,000.
So they had it. They didn't have it listed because they weren't sure if it was going to be ready. So it wasn't listed. Okay. That's what was going on there. And then they kind of shot out a price tag. We'll come back to the price tag later because I know it's in the release notes somewhere, but I don't want to get the quote wrong.
Okay.
So that's what that hit. Let's see, updates, other updates. So raid runes and Threads of Fate no longer ask if you'd like to pick them up when you loot them in chests. However, as we discovered this week, they don't. When you loot all, they don't loot in your chest. You have to click them out of the chest. So, funny thing.
That's a bit risky.
What was that?
That's a bit risky.
A little bit. Just make sure you actually kind of loot them out of your chest. Orbs now appear in random loot. They can appear with most of the same effects that random loot scepters do. They can be found in random loot, can be Caneth crafted. They gain orb bonuses instead of enhancement bonuses. Shocking. They use the shield lift of craftable effects, but also have the option of adding spell focus in the prefix slot, as well as insightful spell power, insightful spell focus, or spell lore in the suffix slot. Which are not included. Spell power is included in shields already, so.
Yeah. That's a nice addition. I like that.
Yeah. Although we did kind of wonder from running the last couple of days if when they put orbs into the random loot, if they put them a little bit more generously than other things.
it does seem like they're popping up pretty regularly, trying to almost fill in the market there quickly.
Yeah, that was kind of weird, a little weird.
Well, which is what happened back when they did the Ghost Bane thing. That was coming out a lot as well. When they add things to loot table, they seem to get some sort of enhancement in their selection.
Yeah, we'll just kind of see what happens there. Eldritch Knight had some stuff changed. I will try to pick out the highlights here. There's more. They added more double strike in the cores. They added higher damage dice from spell sword attacks. So what it was is it changes you from D6s to D8s to D10s, and I think it goes up to D12s. And then the place they really kind of changed some stuff was Knight's Transformation. So the base version now gives you +5 to hit with weapons and +3% double strike. Improved Knight's Transformation is +3 to damage with weapons and the mobile spellcasting feat, which allows you to move more quickly while casting. Kind of a fun thing there. The Knight's Striker and Controller, so that's a selector. You pick one or the other. Both will now grant +20 melee power. And Eldritch Tempest, which is the one that can knock things down, it now also adds a slow by 50% for 6 seconds. And that attack has +10 to critical threat range and +3 to critical multiplier. So big damage, like that. Kind of fun. In the Spell Pass update, so they were going to increase the damage to Polar Ray. What ended up happening is they found that they did it too much, so they brought it back. The biggest thing is Polar Ray has no saving throw. So between its high damage and lack of saving throw, it kind of made it really not. It was too good. So they toned it down. So instead of it being +16 to damage per cast level, it's going to be +8 per damage per cast level. So there you go. Also, unfortunately, they were not able to get the favor work done in time. They were intending to release the Falconry Universal Enhancement Tree to be unlocked through favor on a per-character basis. They still plan on doing that as soon as they can get the work finished, hopefully the next patch or so, depending on when it comes. Although, when we start talking about bugs, you might hazard a guess to say that it might be a little bit later than sooner, because they got a couple things they need to iron out a little bit, but we'll see what happens there. So those are kind of the updates. So update 41. Let's go through the release notes. It is titled The Corvair Shipment. It was released this Wednesday, December 5th. So the quest, Lost at Sea, a ship carrying important cargo, has sunk off the coast of Stormreach, and you've been hired to assist a Warforged salvage company recover the cargo and deal with any threats that arise. You get to dive down to find the wreckage and search for clues. It's level 15 on Heroic and 32 on Legendary. The NPC is located in the harbor, and the quest is free to play. And I haven't run it, but I'm guessing that it is a little bit of a teaser for the upcoming expansion. The bard songs have been improved, so that changes. We've talked about this, but basically, Bardic Inspiration will now include all single target bard spells, and all area effect spells will now constantly pulse from the location in a ballad. So you don't have to sing them all individually. I'm still kind of on the fence with this one in terms of how it plays. It's definitely a different play. I did play my bard in a raid. I don't think I spent more time singing. Actually, I'm pretty sure I didn't spend more time singing, because the spells, all the single target stuff, lasts forever. It lasts for about 20 minutes. So with all the stuff that I have, don't ask me what it is, because I haven't looked at it in a while. But it was going for a good long while. So it was a little bit more. I think I was singing a little bit more at the beginning than I might have normally. But it certainly balanced out, at least in my favor, in terms of throughout the raid not having to re-sing quite as often, just when people died, kind of a thing. So. Let's see. I will say the one thing I did notice was people who have even just a moderate amount of you can repair them. It was the heal over time was repairing them instead of healing them, which it would have been more effective in that case to heal instead of repair. But oh well. Let's see. Other stuff about they changed a lot of the stuff about the bards, what the songs do. Fate Singer had a bunch of stuff that was kind of tweaked as well. I'm not going to go through all of the numbers. We've kind of talked about them before. But they kind of tried to make bards a little better. The War Chainer Capstone is also now 25 hit points, 2 charisma, and 2 constitution, and expend a bard song to scream the songs of your frozen ancestors, forcing enemies in an area to make a fortitude save, throw versus freeze, or be slowed significantly. Some fun stuff there. Eldritch Knight, we've talked about that in the past, and that's out with this update. Let's see, a couple other things. Renegade Mastermaker's Kinetic Discharge can now be used while moving. Shielding Construct and Warding Construct now require the right amount of Artificer levels to use. Asamar's Protector Stance no longer drops on death. Thank you. Dual Dagger Vishtani Knife Fighters now use a shorter animation for cleave and several other AoE special attacks to make the attacks take the same amount of time as other combat styles. Let's see. Arcane Warrior's feat buffs now last 12 seconds per stack. It was previously 6. In each stack of Arcane Warrior, Magical now grants +2 universal spell power instead of the 1 it was granting before. And then strangely, it says the War Chainer's Capstone is now +2 charisma instead of +2 strength in a separate line. So I'm not actually sure which one of those two it is. The Shadow Dancer's Meld into Darkness is now much less likely to be interrupted. It is definitely that. Although I did notice that you don't tumble back now, which is kind of interesting. So that's kind of a fun. That helps a little bit. If I've noticed, because I like to use this as a tank, obviously, because not getting hit is great. The tumble back when you're in a tight space on an island and killing time is a little dicey. So watch out. The items. A number of changes have been made to raid loot. All level 28 and 29 raid loot is now organized into 3 separate tiers. We've kind of been talking about this. Players with current legendary raid loot can turn into their old loot into new versions by using threads of fate, which are dropping in the legendary raids. So a couple notes about how to use these. There's 2 traders. The reacquisition crafting table is in the Hall of Heroes, relatively close to White Plume Mountain. It's kind of on the other side of the big pile of stuff in the middle of that room. They put all of the reacquisition stuff there. The reason they did that is because they didn't want the 130 or so recipes for reacquisition to clutter up the main crafting window. So that's where you have to upgrade your old raid loot. The other stuff, you double-click on the actual threads themselves, kind of like if you're from the Blackstones from Hall of Heroes, Combinations of Valor. These are all kind of the same mechanic. There are also several recipes that kind of do a 3-way handshake shuffle. Basically, what happens is when you upgrade, this has to do with the ones that are exclusive, things that are exclusive, because what ends up happening is the way that the inventory and kind of things happen, exclusivity requirements kind of make some of the stuff weird. So what happens is they have to give you an item with the same bind status, and then you turn that in to get the actual item back that you need to. So you have to kind of do it twice to do that. Trading runes for threads. Initially, they had said that you'd be able to turn in your raid runes from these raids into threads. They decided not to do that. They opted to instead drastically reduce the top end prices. So and that just kind of helps keep some of the stuff balanced. So you just get the threads. You can't turn in your raid runes for threads now. So, which is a bit of a bummer, but I think reducing how much the price is a little better. So, raid runes have been added to all of the legendary raids. So that's Mark of Death, Temple of Deathroom, Fire and Thunder Peak, and Defiler of the Just. That didn't have them before. This is now in lieu of a 20th completion reward list, so you won't get a 20th completion reward list anymore. If you were at 19 completions, my condolences to you. Your completion list no longer matters. Hopefully you're able to get in your 20th completion runs. Temple of Deathroom and Fire on Thunder Peak now have Thunderforge crafting materials as rewards in addition to their selection of raid loot. Also, their phlogisons are now bound to account, including the ones you already have, so that's kind of nice. Mark of Death will also include Masterwork Tapestry shards in their raid rune list, and Killing Time's raid rune list selection now also includes Schism shards, so you can get those as well. And they standardized the tome drop rate for everything, which we've talked about before. Let's see. Now, there are new scrolls that are available based on the new spell listed in the release notes. Some of I think the level 9 spells are not actually there yet. They will be added later. At least that's the intent. Let's see. Siberius Dragon Shards now contain their feat respec level ranges in their tooltips. That's really nice. I don't have to figure out what they are or remember them. The collectibles now sort themselves based on tier and rarity in your red collectibles bag. I'm not entirely sure if that's better or worse. It just kind of is for me. So, let's see. There's a new suite of wintry cosmetics available in Daily Dice. You can also get them in. You can also get them through the vendor, the trade vendor that lets you kind of cycle through any cosmetics you get from there. See, Soul Razor now breaks crystal damage reduction properly. The Prowess 5-piece set. This is the set that it used to be when they were going to release it. It was, you got 100 melee power for 10 seconds when you use an action boost. They dropped it down to 75. Now they're dropping it down to 50. They made it too good, apparently. The Enlightened Steps 5-piece set, however, it's going up to plus 5% double strike and double shot. Several raid items now have their proper orange border. Let's see. Hearts of Wood from the DDO store are now bound to account. Already purchased hearts will have the new binding status. See, Festival. The Festival coins are now dropping. The Gesture will be here, I believe, sometime next week. So looking forward to that. Just a reminder that those are only for chests in Eberron. You will not get that out of Forgotten Realms. Let's see. The new Wizard and Sorcerer spells are available at level 1. So that's the Fire, Freezing, Acid, and Electric Bolt. The really cheap ones. And then the other Iceberg, Acid Wall, and Thunder Strike are available at level 9. And then they updated a whole bunch of spells we've talked about before. So there you go. There's kind of the most of the release notes. There was also another change that did not make the release notes. They have removed Reaper as a setting from Legendary Hound of Zoriat. The reason why they did that was basically, one, it was pretty quick, which I don't think was really so much the reason. The issue here is the main mechanic of the raid is charming creatures to attack, charming the dogs to attack Bomb, to attack ZZ. The problem is that when you scale up on Reaper, they get way better, so it's actually to your benefit to go higher in Reaper difficulty. So they removed that as a thing. I think we lost Asheras, so won't get any of his comments here. But we'll go into the bugs. The new quest Lost at Sea was replaced with placeholder XP values, which are higher than intended. As such, when Update 41 Patch 1 is released, it will receive a reduction in base XP with a minor increase in some optional percents in order to bring the quest more in line with its length and difficulty. Turns out, as Cookie Kobold said, that if you set placeholder numbers based on a quest you built previously, you need to go back and change them. Oops. Threads of Fate. Many of the tooltips for the recipes are bugged. It's a known issue. It should be fixed internally and come out with the next one. They are giving you the actual correct items with that. However, the tooltip is going to be wrong. Also, Defiler of the Just and Strahd are not consistently giving out raid runes and threads correctly. This has to, it seems to be, at least for Strahd, kind of limited to hard and Reaper tables. This has been fixed internally. We'll come up with an upcoming patch, but that has not yet happened. So if you're looking for raid runes and threads, Strahd and Defiler Just, a little dicey right now. The new level 9 spells, as I mentioned, are not yet available in scroll form, but will be soon. The level 1 spell versions are available in the marketplace scroll vendor, however. Let's see. They updated updated spell-like ability tooltips in old versions. So they updated a bunch of the spells, as we mentioned. The problem is that the SLAs did not get updated. Now, what I mean by that is it's the tooltip. The spell is still correct. It's just the tooltip is wrong. So it's still pointing to the correct spell. Bard Inspiration has a shorter than intended range, so that should be fixed and coming in an updated or upcoming patch. If you're familiar with the festival cookies, this will probably not surprise you. The Abishai cookie set is broken. Again. Like every year, this thing gets broken. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, the Abishai cookies you get from festivals, they have a set bonus if you eat all 5 of them. There's one for the 5 different colors. If you eat them all, you get a set bonus, essentially. Sharp Note. I believe this is out of Fate Singer. The effects system automatically suppresses buffs if the same channel has a higher magnitude affecting it already. For example, this buff, Sharp Note, was giving a bonus to the Bardic Music channel. However, the main Inspire Courage effect that all bards automatically seeing is also giving damage on the Bardic Music channel, so the Sharp Note buff was being suppressed. If you were to grant Sharp Note to someone and then get far enough away that the Inspire Courage can no longer be heard, the Sharp Note buff would magically reappear. So Linabella changed Sharp Note to be unique. That way it will stack all the time, which will cause it to not suppress underneath Inspire Courage as well. So there you go. There's kind of most of the bugs. There's a couple other little tiny things that, but some of them relate to the next thing we get to talk about, the DDO Seasons Pass. So this was announced this week. It's essentially a new way to buy the game, or pay for the game. So, introducing DDO Seasons Pass. It combines the convenience of VIP access with the joy of ownership. During the 2-year season, you get VIP access, permanent ownership of new VIP access content, and more benefits. Only 1,000 season passes will be available. They are currently on sale. They started December 7th at 12 o'clock Eastern. They will be available through December 16th and will no longer be through basically the entire day, 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. When they're gone, so don't miss out if you want to be a season pass holder. So what do you get? You get 2 years of DDO VIP access. So that's 500 DDO points per month. Bonus XP, all the benefits of being a VIP. They will kick in immediately upon redeeming your season pass code on your account. You can only put one season pass code on your account. You can't get it more than once. If you already, this is a very common question. If you already are a VIP, when you apply this, it will push your VIP date back 2 years, your renewal date back 2 years. So you won't be paying double at the same time. So the season pass grants permanent ownership of VIP features that are released during the 2-year season from 2019 to 2020. That means every time a VIP gets their automatic free access to newly released store content, season pass holders get to keep it. They enjoy accessing features such as new adventure packs, races, classes, and when your season pass expires, you'll still retain ownership of those features on your account. This excludes any non-VIP inclusive features, like expansions. So when they release an expansion, it will not be included in the season's pass because it's not included in VIP either. So you will have to buy that separately. DM's favor. Season pass holders get daily free rolls of gold dice in addition to the standard daily silver rolls. You get fabulous rewards when you roll gold daily dice like sentient XP gems, tomes, increased XP rewards, rare cosmetics, and more. There is currently a bug with this. What happens is if you have to roll, if you roll your gold roll, your free gold roll first, you won't get your free silver roll. So until they fix that, you have to roll your silver roll first, then your gold roll. So just kind of be aware of how that plays out. DM's favor lasts the full 2-year season, so it ends December 31st, 2020. See, you also get a new cosmetic armor. It's a silver dragon armor. It looks very similar to some versions of the red dragon armor and some of the other dragon armors. It's just silver. You get a heroic autos box. Your autos box is delivered to the character that you redeem your season pass code on. That's not entirely correct. What happens is you apply your season pass, you log out. When you log in, then you will get your autos box on whatever character you log in on. So kind of be aware of that. Now you might be asking, what is the price for this fantastic deal? Well, the price is $299 before tax. Whether or not it's a fantastic deal has been hotly debated on the forums. If you want to do the math, a year's subscription is about $100. So for $99, you're getting an heroic autos box, a cosmetic armor, and free daily gold rolls for 2 years. An autos box, depending on how you want to count, it costs about $50 worth of points. But if you buy them on sale, you can get it down to about $35. So there's been a lot of debate about whether or not the difference in cost there is worth being a season pass. The things that I will tell you that some people are kind of glossing over, you keep any of the VIP content that comes out. So any adventure packs that come out for the next 2 years, you will own. You will not have to buy them again when your VIP or season pass run out. So that's one thing. The other thing with the gold rolls, the free gold rolls, that's for every server. So you're not actually getting, well, you get something like just over 300 extra gold rolls in a year. You actually get that across all 8 servers. So if you play on multiple servers, you will probably get more bang for your buck with that in mind. As far as the 1,000 passes, that's so there's only 1,000 available. I'm expecting it to sell out. I couldn't tell you when. It would not surprise me if it sells out in the next couple days. They do have another week to go. But if you do the math, there's 8 servers. If Wayfinder only buys 50 of these things, then all the other servers need to average 150, which doesn't seem like that many when you start thinking about it in that terms. So,
I don't think so. Yeah, there's a fairly decent size player base on each server that I think these would appeal to.
Yeah, I would be more surprised if they didn't sell out than if they did. And I know there have already. I probably already know or have seen about 50 people on Kyber that have the armor, or I know have bought the season pass. So, take that into consideration. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I got the season pass, and I did it as soon as it was available. We've talked before about super VIP sort of options, and I think this is kind of a toe in the water in that direction. And there's a lot of things I like about it. I think that the idea of the VIP getting the content, for purchase, as well as that comes out during that duration, is an interesting direction. It's not one I ever really thought of, but I hope that they continue to, if this sells out, continue to come up with other options, maybe ones that are targeted more towards different groups of players that might have different interests as well. Because I can see where, just from the comments that were done on the forums, that this appealed to some players but not to others. And but yeah, I think if you're seeing about 50 on Kyber alone, you do that math, that says that it's assuming there was that many on every other server, you're already half gone.
Yeah,
give or take. So
I mean, it's an
it's
estimate. Don't quote me on that number, but
no, but yeah, I think that just seeing 300 to 400 people on the Who panel during peak hours, and you do the math there, it kind of gives you a feel for the fact that the player base is large enough to support 1,000 of these selling in a reasonable period of time, 2 weeks. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I have an account on all the servers, so I can roll dice every day. Doesn't take that long.
It's true. It will. I know there's been people too that are like, "This is great. I wish I could afford it." I know at least one person who was like, "This is great. I would totally buy it if my subscription hadn't just clicked over 2 days ago." So there's some,
that's a fair point. Yeah, if you had an annual subscription that you just paid $100 for, and now you're gonna have to go in for another 300, that might have been negative. See, mine runs it's March or April. I can't recall which now.
Mine's January.
Yeah. So
it was perfect.
It worked well. Yeah, it worked well for me. Well, mine used to be January, but then we got a month or two free with Ravenloft, so that pushed it out further a little bit for me.
The other thing too is if you just clicked over your subscription, and that's the difference between you buying this, get in touch with customer support. They're usually really reasonable. They're really good to their customers and folks. I know people are snickering at me when I say this. I understand that the time and responses sometimes are slower than you would like. Having said that, get in touch with, submit a ticket. They might say, sure, we'll cancel that and give you this instead. So if that's the difference in you buying it, that might be an option for you. We should mention there were some delivery problems with this, though. It was not all roses. So people reported that if they were buying more than one at a time, that there were some delivery problems. So the recommendation is they said they fixed it, and then someone immediately after that posted that they only bought one and they didn't get it. I purchased it as well. I did not get an email confirmation, but I had the code saved, so I was still able to put in the code. So when you buy it, you'll get a confirmation window. It'll tell you what your code is. I recommend that you save that code if you're not at your computer at home to put it into the DDO store. So make sure you have it just in case you don't get that email. And if you do have problems or did have problems, get in touch with customer support. They are working through and making sure that gets taken care of and everyone gets all of the stuff that they're supposed to have. So they are working on getting that taken care of. If you want to look, kind of look at this from a couple different lenses, if you want to look at it from a pessimistic side, you could say, okay, well, they need $300,000 to keep going. or you could look at it from an optimistic side and say, hey, they're pretty confident in putting out at least another 2 years worth of content, and probably a little bit more than that, at least. Otherwise, it's kind of a ripoff move. So
I think that it's hard for me to say that after Ravenloft, which was I think a pretty strong
oh yeah,
success from a financial perspective as well as from a reception perspective, within the player base, and then within a year and a half later they're doing another expansion. Um, and the White Plume content was fun, and with what they're doing with all the raids, kind of building a more structured end game that looks like they're looking forward and thinking down the road. That seems to me to say this is more about capitalizing on a market or a segment of their player base that they haven't been capitalizing on so far.
Mhm.
And we've been talking about the super VIP thing for years. And I've often said that there's players out there who would spend more money if you give them things. And I don't know that this is necessarily even the most compelling thing they could have come up with.
No, not by a long
I
shot.
mean, no, so, but I'm hopeful it's just a starting point of other things they're doing to say, hey, there's folks who are passionate about this game who enjoy it, and let's come up with things that to allow them to enjoy it more. One of the things I like about this though is that there's almost no power creep in this, or buying progression. There's an autos box, sure, but just one. But it's not something that really unbalances anything. And I think that that's a good. I want to see them continue to find ways to monetize the game in ways that are quality of life, content related, things like that, cosmetics, different things that make the game more enjoyable, but don't necessarily create a haves and haves nots sort of thing where you've got to spend money to really be
Sure.
competitive. So, and this I think is a good way to do that for the most part.
And if you want, if you want to run some numbers, with after tax, you're essentially paying $100 for a daily gold roll, uh, which is not an insignificant amount of money for a daily gold roll. I mean, plus the cosmetic armor. But if you want to take the cosmetic armor out of it, make the math a little easy. So you're getting 300 extra gold rolls in a year. So you need to get essentially uh, a penny a point. You need to get 300 points out of each gold roll. Average that out, which does not seem, even on one server, that doesn't seem unreasonably easy to do, right? So if you're doing it on multiple servers, then you can reduce that down pretty quickly. So, I personally don't think it's a bad deal. Sure, they could have made the deal better, but I think you're right that there's not a lot of power creep in here. I might have said it would have been nice if they'd increased the VIP XP bonus by like 5% for these people. That might have been more compelling.
That'd be nice.
Yeah,
oh,
right.
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple things they could have done to make it a little bit more compelling as well. But I don't think it's a bad deal either. So,
Yeah.
And again, this is when we're talking about the numbers there, we're also kind of completely ignoring the fact that you have you've already purchased the content. So if you let your VIP lapse or you don't want to pay VIP anymore, or this lapses, you still own that content. So there's a little bit at which you wouldn't get normally with the 2-year VIP plan anyways. So
one thing I was thinking of that I would love to see them do at some point, especially if they're going to start doing things where VIPs can purchase content, because the idea of VIPs purchasing content is theoretically for a point in time where they are no longer a subscriber for content because they own the content. But right now, the current VIP has a subscription on content and quality of life stuff combined together in one package. It would be interesting to me if they split that quality of life stuff out, and the VIP was something that gave you run speed, XP, bank slots, character slots, all the little, opening on elite first time, all the little things that VIP offers, and that was a certain price every month, and you could bolt that on top of you could basically sign up for that as a premium player who owns content, or a subscriber who is theoretically renting content. And
Sure.
because I think that would be an interesting revenue model for them, that would allow that to, because there's all these premium players who I'm sure would love that aspect of it, but they own the content, so they feel like
Hmm.
they're kind of wasting their money. And I don't know.
Possible. Sure. Um,
Yeah.
although I think that this deal, I think this is probably a better deal for those players than it is for someone who's and has always been a VIP, because
I'd agree with
you're
that.
getting all
Yes.
that stuff and you're getting the content ahead of time.
Hmm.
One other thing that people were kind of commenting on, like, well, what's coming out in the next 2 years? Like, we don't. If it ends up like they release each adventure pack, if we're only gonna get 5 updates every year and one of them's gonna be an expansion next year, you're getting 9 adventure packs, and if they only have like 2 quests in them, then is that really worth it? Good question. To that, I would say that they have been releasing more content of the last 2 years, so that's at least encouraging. But
Yeah.
it's hard to say.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's a certain amount of trust,
Mm-hmm.
with the fact that, hey, if you're saying you're gonna be able to own all the content for the next 2 years, that there, like you said, there's an implied contract that you're going to be around for 2 years, and that you're going to actually put out content that would fall under this, not just a bunch of expansions, or
Mm-hmm.
nothing. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I would not expect them to put out more than one expansion in this time frame, just because they haven't put them
Mhm.
out faster than that in the past. But
I think with expansions, yeah, trying to do an expansion a year, I think you're going to end up with having to shrink them,
mm-hmm.
or affect the quality of them. And I would rather they actually took a little more time, made them bigger, and did them upright like Ravenloft was done. I think most folks would say Shadowfell was
Meh.
not really, yeah, really meh as expansions go. I think Ravenloft and Menace of the Underdark are more what we're looking for,
Yeah.
and especially in Sharn. If you're going to do a big city like that, then that's spectacular. Then do it right.
Sure. Yeah. One other thing before we move off of season pass, kind of related to it, Twitter did mention that they are kind of exploring options to make it so that VIPs can purchase content while they are still a VIP, which you currently can't do. So they are kind of looking into that as an option as well.
I think
Uh,
that'd be a nice add. That's been a complaint for a lot of people for a long time, and I think the concern is that eventually you're cannibalizing your VIP base, But like I said, if you split off the quality of life stuff at some point, so premiums can still sign up for that on a monthly basis or annual basis, then you really wouldn't be.
yeah. It also helps people that their VIP is. They know their VIP. They're not going to go re-up their VIP. They can start buying content now when it's on sale, that kind of stuff. So there's some stuff we have there.
I've been a VIP since 2008. I don't really have any plans to not be one. Obviously, I just bought the season pass, but if there was content that was still on sale at a 50% or a 75%, and it's content I know I liked, there's a very good chance I would go ahead and get it anyways,
Sure.
just in case.
Yeah.
So
Uh, anything? I already went through the loose notes while we were missing you. Anything you want to say about them? We should probably talk about Threads of Fate a little bit.
oh yeah, yeah, that's fine. I apologize for
Yeah, it
having some
happens.
technical difficulties there. Just on the release notes, I like kind of what they did with Eldritch Knight. I think it's an interesting tree. I think it's not. I don't see where it's going to be meta, per se. But I like a lot of. There's some neat features in there. I think it'll create a neat play style. And so I'm excited to tinker with it. Is what I'm trying to say there,
Sure.
and see what you can do with it. There's been some multi classes I've been kind of eyeing as well to see how they come out of there. Um, have you? I haven't seen any real. I haven't run with any bards since the update, to see how the difference in the songs really ends up working and function.
I
Have
did
you?
talk about it. I did run my bard through Curse of Strahd. I think I spent more time singing up front, but less time singing overall because the
Okay.
songs lasted.
Hmm.
Mileage may vary depending on how survivable your party is and how often you're refreshing resurrected people's songs. But
Hmm. I know one thing that was a big deal in the release notes that kind of got put in there at the last minute was the prowess change.
yep.
And I get nobody likes nerfs, and I I don't like nerfs either. My main player uses a prowess set, in LD, but I also get that they're probably prepping us for more things to come here. Kind of like with the Threads of Fate, you know. It's really hard for them to design new sets for filigrees when you've got one that's so dominant. And
If everybody wants only that one, then something's wrong.
yeah,
Just
well,
saying.
it's the same. It's the same thing we ran into with Mortal Fear back in the
Mm-hmm.
day. And it's like, if they give you something too good that they really can't ever design anything else to fit in that slot, it's a bit of a problem.
Although one would question why they didn't see that one coming,
Yeah,
but
hmm yeah, that one.
it's still a
That
50% damage, especially when you combine that with Legendary Dreadnought, where you can action boost. You can just chain your action boost, and you can have a ton of them.
Yep.
I mean, if you have all the action boosts from that tree, there's 3 action boosts there. You can have another. You can have a human action boost, and you can have a class action boost. You can have more than one class action. I mean, you could, and you
I
can have
think
12 action boosts on each one of those. You could have that thing running for an hour.
I think I think Asheras has 18 action boosts right now, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. And then I have a draconic reinvigoration item that I swap in periodically to try and regen them as I go. If we're in a long Baba beatdown or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Threads of Fate, I would say that I like the mechanic. I like how it's working. I think they need to do some number balancing because I think we got the same amount out of Fire on Thunderpeaks as we did out of Deathworm, and that's not right.
No, because Fire on Thunderpeaks is way faster
like
and
half
easier.
the time.
Yeah. Well, Deathworm especially is rough because it has that variability in terms of when you're going to get the phylactery. And you can be in there for 45 minutes.
Yeah. I don't think they need to really. Some of that variability is poor tactics too. So
yeah, that's true. But I've been in some rough runs there, but yeah.
too.
I think I would, if I had to pick the two, though, if they're identical, I'm definitely choosing to run Fire on Thunder Peak because
if you're looking for threads, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt. There's a couple of them that are going to be more efficient than others. I mean, Shroud at 33 is nice. That's the biggest, right?
I think that was the most we got. We run most of them, and that was the most we got. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think the consensus is that Fire on Thunderpeaks and Mark of Death right now are probably the 2 most efficient.
Yeah, probably.
So.
Yeah, because
that's
Mark
probably
of Death
not the intent.
Point. No, probably not.
But numbers are easy to balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's nice. I mean, I know that just on Kyber, which is really the only server I play on actively, the number of raids being run has definitely gone up. You're seeing groups who were really doing a lot of TRing now getting back into doing more raiding, and just nightly people firing up raids. It seems like it's a little bit. Obviously, it's early, but I like the idea that that's happening, and if this is contributing to that, that's great.
Sure.
And definitely running content that we haven't run in a while, which makes it fun too when people get in there and lose their mind in mod or something like that.
Yeah,
they forget how to do it. Doge is that way too. People kind of forget how Doge works.
I was actually a little surprised. I remembered the puzzles in Deathworm, so
that's good.
All right, let's move on to so bonus days, double daily dice XP through December 9th. Good time to buy that season pass if you're gonna do it and get some extra gold rolls. Store news. So the deals for the week is store more loot. So it's 20% off of character bank space, shared bank, deposit box, and platinum storage space, as well as inventory space and bags through December 13th. The coupon for the week is a lasting potion of neutralized poison ×5 with the coupon code Cure Poison. That can actually be those can actually be kind of nice if you're going to be somewhere you know you're going to get poisoned a lot because it's lasting. So it lasts a while. See, also December deals are here. So the first week of that, you can get 35% off of +8 tomes, 50% off of Dragonborn and character slots, and 75% off of Against the Slave Lord Adventures pack. Great time to buy. It's a great pack too. Really good quest there. I will say, going back to what we were talking about with the season pass, and people are saying that they just had their VIP click over. With the +8 tomes, there was someone who on the forums said, "Hey, I bought a +8 tome because the 7 to 8 upgrade tome or an 8 supreme tome because the 7 to 8 upgrades were not on sale, and that he was told, get in touch with customer support. We'll take care of you. So that's kind of a point saying that that's a possibility for Season Pass. Also, if you haven't gotten your free cloak, use the coupon code GetCloaked through December 31st, so you can get that as well. I think that's the Ranger's cloak. It's a kind of a green flayed one.
Yeah, I got one. Yeah, with a little bit of a tattered edge because it's been worn a lot.
It's plain, but I'll tell you, some of the plain ones look better than some of the fancy cloaks that they just look out of place.
I feel like less is more with a lot of the cloaks.
Yeah.
I'm okay with a bit of a pattern, but some of the ones that are doing a little too much.
It's like a plaid pattern. Like something from like a plaid pattern. It's like, what is this? Why is this? Anyways.
What's the one that has like a big crown or a treasure chest at the bottom of it? That one's a little.
Well, the treasure chest is the mimic cloak. The crown is the mysterious remnant cloak.
Yeah, those are a bit much for my taste. They overpower them.
I don't mind those ones. They sort of fit. It's there's one that's like red and white checkerboard.
Oh yeah.
Make any sense? It doesn't fit in my world of DDO. So, all right, let's cruise through some community news before we're here for another 2 hours. So a couple chronicles to get through. So the 311th chronicle. This was 2 weeks ago. So highlighted the D&D night Thanksgiving special. The comment for the week: what would be on a Mad Wizard's desk?
Hopefully a stress ball or a bottle of Valium. I don't know.
There you go. I'd say you think he has a desk? It's a mimic.
Oh, there you go.
Guild for the week: Legends of Undermountain is a level 63 guild on the Solona server. They're adventurous and helpful on most evenings along the Eastern time zone. They're always looking for new and veteran players. You can contact Cassandra or Arcia in mail message or chat for more information or to join. Fansite news: DDO Players News had episode 202. We got a shout out for our last episode talking about past life prioritization. We'll bring that kind of topic and series back more times. Let's see. Sip had a blog post float like featherfall, sting like a bee. Was the title of that. Batch the Gore had episode 104 of Fridays on Ice. Bard Life with Doug was on. DDO Sunday with Alex and Lynn. Madness to the Method from Return to the House of Grouse. And Fridio had an episode with Psycho Blonde. And DDO PL ran Giant Hold and stuff. They also had a weekly Wednesday lunchtime live stream with Steelstar and Linnabelle, if you'd like to check that out. The 312th Chronicle, Mickey has been writing about her raids weekends for quite some time. Was celebrating her 100th raid week. Congratulations. Got a shout out for D&D Splat. I'll talk about that more in a minute. Strimtom delved into the changes in Update 41. The guild for the week, Wolfholm, is a small level 85 guild on Cannith. It's recruiting new members in the Eastern time zone. You want to check them out there. Chronicle comment: who do you think the festival jester is? Probably some sort of extraplanar creature that has a mimic ability or a mirror image ability of some kind.
A doppelganger?
That seems more malicious, though, right? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Your opinion may vary depending on how much coal and twigs you get, I suppose. Let's see, Fansite news. DDO Players News got another shout out for the same episode they did last week. That's kind of funny. DDO Wiki Talk had the latest live stream. Zal17 Gaming went on a slaying spree. You can watch that on YouTube. DDO Sunday with Alex and Lynn is questing every Sunday afternoon on DDO stream. Evil Beaker and crew we continued our rescue quest in the latest D&D night on DDO stream. That's the one where I'm a player. See, Bard Life hit Arganessen. Stratopalooza was raiding on Arganessen as well. Fridays on Ice gives DDO players a fun place to hang out and kick off the weekend. Rock and Friends brought the role-playing. Brighter Days Ahead tonight brought the game back together. Sip found a screaming idle baby. House of Grouse looked at synergy between race and class. Let's see. Cordovan had ran the new free dungeon on the weekly Wednesday lunchtime live stream. If you'd like to check that out as well. All right, DDOCast news, DDOCast. We did have. I guess we are going to keep playing through December, at least until the holidays. We kind of went back and forth on that a little bit, but we'll be playing next Tuesday, probably running Terminal Delirium. So if you really want to watch us die, then this is the week. See D&D night on DDO stream. Last week we did Evil Beaker was doing his Rescue Saba Jade continuing storyline. My barbarian survived and killed many things. I think I topped out I got a 54-point damage critical hit, which is pretty darn good considering what we're normally hitting for. So that was a lot of fun. And then this week, D&D Kasplat will be, that's the group with the Damsels and Rent and Tay and Nobob. With me as the DM, we'll be playing this Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time till 10-ish. So yeah, and that's been going really well. A lot of fun there. You can catch all the past shows on YouTube as well as Twitch. So, and that will be on twitch.tv/DDO stream. And you can catch D&D night every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So, we're talking about Lightning Post. What little we have. So Freya wrote in, said if you don't have, this is mostly talking about past lives. If you don't have your Quiver of Alacrity, get a couple sets of the Boots of Anger Step. Each one has 2 shots of Expeditious Retreat. Good for a low life. Yeah, I like that as well.
Yeah, good call. Absolutely.
Yep. And Anonymous wrote in saying, Firewall has Evocation DC. This was in response to me saying that Evocation DC is not super critical. There are a ton of Evocation-based stuns, generally Sonic spells, that are useful in any caster. Blade Barrier for Divines, Greater Shout for Bard. Implosion and Meteor Swarm are also affected. Yeah, not to say that Evocation is not useful. I think most people don't tend to get a lot of bang for the buck out of going crazy with their Evocation DCs, though. Particularly when you're talking about not having a lot of feats to spend on a sorcerer or something like that. So,
yeah, I think Warlocks use the Evocation DC as well, don't they, for their blasts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, which has a save on the pact damage. So, I mean, it can be helpful in a nuker sort of format, but I think in comparison with like a necromancy or enchantment or something like that, it's I don't typically build as strong for evocation.
Yeah, and I think if you have the feats to really go crazy with your spell DCs, you probably are picking a different spell class to really go crazy with. So, but mileage may vary. He also said that he had to respec Dire Charge since, despite not mentioning in the description, it only works with melee weapons. Yeah. Oops. Not to mention the nightmare of knowing what counts as helpless and what enables sneak attacks. They're not the same thing. Yes, they sort of are. If they're helpless and you can get the fortification down, you can get... Okay, they're not really the same thing. So helpless is a state that lets you have extra damage. If you have sneak attacks, it makes them eligible for it. You still have to bypass their fortification if they have fortification to get it. So there's a lot of kind of things playing in there. But
yeah, and they can be eligible for sneak attacks without being helpless as well.
Correct.
So they're two different things, but they are, like you said, they are somewhat related.
If you make something helpless, you can sneak attack it.
Yes.
If you can sneak attack it. That's kind of the gist of it there. All right, that'll wrap up the news portion for the show. So thanks for listening, and thanks to Asheras for joining me in fighting through technical difficulties. Thanks to all the other contributors of DDOcast, and to Sending Some Games and Wizards of the Coast, and to Cyberus for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so at DDOcast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. If you have a DDO-themed webpage or you Twitch DDO and you'd like to be featured on our website, email me, ddocast@gmail.com. I'd love to feature you and help get you some more viewers there. You can hit us up at DDOCast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous show, and other fun stuff. If you'd like to be part of the show, you have a comment on this episode or a question you'd like to hear us answer, or a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, you can leave an email, or you can leave a comment, or you can email us at DDOCast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us for latest cast updates. I'm at DDOCast on Twitter. So stay tuned for the first part of our Killing Time guide, as it were.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Welcome. We are talking today about Killing Time. This will start our series on that. And our goals here are to basically give you an idea of what to expect, how to succeed, how to die less times than you would otherwise. And that's kind of the game plan here. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have Voodu, or Ginger Spice. Welcome back.
Hey, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, and this should be fun. We'd like to take some time to talk about the new raids and kind of give you guys tips and tactics on how to do it. This one's been out for a couple months.
Yep.
Came out in early October, right? Update 40. This raid kind of continues the storyline from RSO. Which is riding the storm out. It's the same boss, you may remember her, except now instead of now she's a was it Shadow Dragon or is it Draco Lich? One of the two. An undead.
She's a Draco Lich.
Okay.
She's now known as Korkaza the Mad.
Yes, because she wasn't mad before. Anyways, so we're gonna give you kind of an idea of what this looks like. It'll probably take us 3, maybe 4 weeks to kind of go through this. There's a lot of different parts to the raid, but a lot of them are kind of repetitive. I don't want to say repetitive, but a lot of the mechanics repeat. So there's not too much to necessarily go over. It's new each time, and a lot of these mechanics we've actually seen before. So just a brief story kind of idea of what's going on, and then we'll kind of jump into kind of what you can expect and the overview and go on from there. The basic story is Korkaza, we defeated her in riding the storm out. She's kind of ticked off about that, so she's gone after the chronoscope, and she's basically trying to change time, preferably to her benefit, but where she is right now is pretty lousy, so I think her plan, more or less, and I think she makes comments about this, like, anything is better than this, so let's see what happens when we tinker through the timeline, so. All right, so before you enter, we're going to give you an idea of what you can expect, what you should bring. Do you want to take it over for a bit?
Yeah, I'd like to say a couple starting words that, I really like the theme of this raid. Overall, my feelings are a little bit mixed, but I do like sort of that we're revisiting some older raid bosses, that we're revisiting the chronoscope. Of course, I would change some things, but and I kind of have mixed feelings about this raid. But there's some really neat things. The idea of Korkaza like trying to undo some of our victories of the past. I think that's what's happening. I think is pretty neat. So I do appreciate that they tried to do something different here. It's kind of a neat raid. So let's see. You want to talk about before we should enter?
Yeah, so what can players expect? What should they bring along? How are they going to die most?
Yeah, they can expect to die. So definitely expect that. No, it's not as bad as riding the storm out got a really bad rep right away because people walked in there and just got smashed. They didn't know to have electrical absorption, etc. So it's not as scary of a raid as riding the storm out, if you will. But
I would say though it's scarier than Baba and Strahd, I think.
it definitely takes coordination. This is not going to be a sort of a pug friendly, you're definitely going to need somebody to be leading it. It's going to need to be coordinated. You're going to need to have multiple roles. And so, it's probably a pretty good idea to have, for example, like 2 tanks.
Yep.
It's probably a good example to have 2 healers.
At least.
And some trash killers, yeah.
There's, I would say, the RSO and Killing Time, the environment is trying to kill you almost more so than anything else. And this raid the damage is less. You're not going to get shocked like you do in RSO. That's just it's less frequent, but they're devastating blows. This one, there's a lot of more incremental damage things that can happen. You really have to pay attention to where you are, what's going on around you, and how you fit into that puzzle. That will really, really, really help you survive. I think that's
a really good point.
thing.
There's a lot of little nickel and dime damage going on.
So, okay, so what do we need to bring?
Besides those roles, you would want to bring, like, remove curse spots, very important. You'd want to bring electrical damage mitigation gear, so electrical absorption gear is important. Energy sheath, the electric version. Electrical absorption and absorption in general is random generated now, so it's a lot easier to find than it was, a few years ago. But we do have a new named ring, and now I can't remember the name of it, out of the new Update 41 raid, which has the highest electrical absorption in the game for an item, aside from, like, I guess it would be sentient weapon set bonuses. There's a 50% absorption, but there's a new ring that has 47% electrical absorption, plus it has some electrical resistance on top of that. So that's really nice.
It's the Ring of Flickering Steel. That comes out of the new quest that just dropped with Update 41.
Yep, that's a good one. And then that same quest also has bracers that have chaos absorption. So this is I think the first time we're seeing an item with chaos absorption on it. I think it has law and chaos absorption. And you do take some chaos damage in this raid. So, that's something you could consider. We're only doing up to hard right now, and we're getting away without it. But I'm just saying that that might be an item that you might want to bring too, just in case.
And something that's really important to note, and this is something that's been a bone of contention on the forums for a while now, is that because of a lot of these things you can mitigate them with MRR. However, they're not always available. And if you're someone who wears light armor and robes and you have evasion or improved evasion to kind of help mitigate that, you're not going to be able to benefit from that in a lot of these instances. So having lower MRR is going to be a hindrance to you. So it's something to kind of keep in mind. These, particularly that chaos absorption, is going to be really more helpful if you are not a heavy or medium armor wearing character and don't have a lot of MRR.
Good point.
So they really got to. Side note, SSG, if you're listening, consider maybe revisiting some of that stuff and figuring out a way to. Because when the MRR it came out, the idea was that MRR is kind of an alternative to evasion, and they didn't want to stack too much. So if you could use evasion, you had your MRR capped. Well, then they'd be coming out with bosses that are using more things that don't allow a save or a reflex save, so your evasion's not helping, and you're still capped on MRR, which would help you in lieu of that. So an opportunity for betterment there. Let's see. Other things, bring the usual, make sure you have some resurrection scrolls and stuff like that. Fire shield scrolls. You are probably going to be using your electrical energy sheath from Draconic. If that is the case, then you are going to want to bring some fire shield scrolls. Because there's also some areas here that, now everyone doesn't necessarily need this, but cold absorption is going to be a thing. because we're going to revisit our favorite part of Tower of Despair, the Part 2 shadow kiting mechanic. So that's something that you're also going to want to keep in mind is some ways to reduce your cold damage. It's not as big of a part of the raid, but I would say, and based on my guild's experience in running this, it's probably the linchpin part of the raid. It's the make or break point, typically. We've been getting better at it and figured out some stuff we'll talk about later, but that's something you really want to keep in mind there. And with that, anything you can do to, when you're talking about personnel, someone who can run fast is really helpful, more so than just striding 30%. You probably want someone who can run a little bit faster than that. Or someone who can take the shadows, which we'll talk about when we get there. And Featherfall. Bring Featherfall.
Oh, good call. That is really essential here.
Some way of doing Featherfall, you will need it. If you do not have it, you will have a lot more difficulty kind of getting around. So we'll probably come up with some other things as we're going here. But let's kind of give an overview of the whole raid, how it's going to work, right? So when you come in, you're going to be in a space that it's the center island is going to be the cornoscope, or kind of what's left of it. And then all around you are going to be smaller islands and air jets. You will have to move between the islands via the air jets to go to different points at different times. If you fall, there are penalty rooms. And what happens is you land in one of 6 rooms, which we'll talk about, that are, shall we say, shortened rehashes of older, mostly favorite quests. Kind of a
yeah.
thing. I don't think the pit is really popular. It's kind of a, as Torque would tell you, he's very proud of the fact that it consistently makes the top 5 best quests and top 5 worst quest lists.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
I think again, people aren't neutral about that quest.
No.
They either love it or hate it. So it's famous and infamous.
It definitely kind of goes one way or the other, doesn't it? Generally speaking. So, so that's kind of happens. If you fall, you end up in one of those rooms, and you either have to clear the room or you have to come up with some sort of way to. I mean, if we'll talk about a little bit more, but you basically have to get through that room to get back to the main fight. Throughout the raid, so you'll beat Korkaza down. She'll move to a different island. You'll beat her down again, and then she opens a new rift. These are all these little side rooms are kind of all called time rifts. They're different areas where, if you were to fail, would change the course of time, kind of a thing. And then you will do the end fight of Vaughn 3. So you fight the 3 mini bosses and then the Marut at the end of Vaughn 3. Come out, do a couple more islands, and then you do Tower of Despair Part 2. Which is the shadow kiting area. Then you come out, do one more island, and then you do Lord of Blades, the boss fight for Lord of Blades. That's and then once that's complete, you win the raid. That's kind of a brief overview. Anything else you kind of want to add here? Kind of give people an idea of what they can expect and how it's going to work?
Well, it's probably good to emphasize that you do have party split mechanics going on.
True.
So in addition to, all of these things that are going on, you have just separate groups happening that really need to stay coordinated and focused on their own.
And the way that works is for the entirety of the raid, Korkaza is moving around the islands in the main kind of map area. If there is no one alive on her island, she begins a ritual. And it will give you an indicator in your quest objectives of how far along she is. If she reaches 100%, you lose. So you have to keep someone alive on that island. Generally speaking, that's a tank. You've seen some other people with varying degrees of success occupy an island for brief periods of time, usually. I know I have definitely thrown myself at the dragon because something happened to the tank and... want to save If you're a really good group and it's 15%, not a big deal. If you're only halfway through the raid and she's already at 50%, that you start to have more problems. Sorry, not sorry, but if your tank is watching hockey and goes into the last portal by accident, you know who you are.
Sounds like this happened.
It did. Was rather amusing, except that we failed because there was no one. We couldn't get through it fast enough. There are just things like that. So you want to make sure you have someone alive on the islands as much as possible. As you kind of run the raid a few times, you'll kind of get used to where she spawns, so you can kind of move, because it takes time to move from island to island with the air jets. It's not a fast process. Pretty much as soon as she leaves one island, you pretty much want to start heading to the next one if you want to get there before she does. And even then, it's a little bit of a trick. So that's kind of how that mechanic works. So you'll need to have one or two people usually outside. Most groups probably going to have a tank and a healer outside. It's usually kind of what people choose to do there.
It's a clutch role. I mean,
Yep.
The tank here that follows the dragon is kind of a babysitter, but you really need somebody who can stay alive, because, like you said, if there's no one alive there, then Korkaza works on a ritual, and it only takes a couple minutes,
Yep.
and then you're done. And the rest of the group is somewhere else. So it's not like if the tank goes down, we'll just send somebody.
There's no D-door, any of that.
You are isolated from them during a lot of this raid. So that tank and that healer need to be very competent.
And paying attention. It's really easy to get bored here.
Yeah, it is. Korkaza is marked on the map with a very small red dot, and I would really like them to make that a little more prominent, because it's kind of hard to see a tiny red dot on a red background.
It's true.
The islands are also red on the map, so probably change that color maybe to, I don't know, blue, because she's a blue dragon, and maybe make that dot a little bigger or something. So it's just
a nice big X. Korkaza is here. Be great.
Yeah. So in any event, there is a dot that shows where she's going to be, so you don't have to memorize, but it is the same every time. She moves from island to island in the same pattern.
And I have not experimented with it, but if you keep beating her down after she opens the law room, I believe she just kind of keeps moving around, potentially in the same pattern. But I have not experimented around with that because we know you don't need to, so we haven't bothered ourselves with it. All right, so there we go. All right, so you talk to the was it Sarion or something like that? The NPC at the beginning. Once you do that, the quest locks. So make sure you have everyone, and everyone is ready to go. And then there's a whole bunch of dialogue. At some point during the dialogue, you will be able to actually fall into these penalty rooms, as we'll call them. Until that, you just end up back at the start point if you fall off. It's going to be shortly before Korkaza lands on the first island, which is to the, I believe, northeast on the map. Once you can fall into the penalty rooms, you have a choice to make. You don't actually have to do anything with these rooms. You can completely ignore them. If someone falls, they will end up in these rooms. When you complete each of the rooms, a portal opens. It will take you back to the starting spawn point. If you die, your stone goes back to the starting spawn point. So we've done a few times where we just ignore the rooms. And if you fall, we just kind of expect you to either complete it yourself or die and end up back at the start. The problem with that is if someone dies, someone has to go back and get them to raise them. Also, as we have learned the hard way a few times, if your tank falls, one, they're usually pretty poor at killing things. And two, they're really good at not dying. So they end up in these rooms for a while. And it's hard to go fishing for them because there's one of 6 rooms that you can end up in. I'm not sure I haven't experimented if it's random or if it's you end up, it alternates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the next person's, and the 7th person who falls goes back into room 1. I'm not exactly sure where that lands, but there you go.
It is random as far as I know.
Yeah. But there's 6 of them that you can end up in, so there's there's no guarantee that you're going to end up in that spot that you want to end up in.
Yeah, this is an important point to emphasize too, because if somebody does fall, you can't, think, oh, I'm going to go help them, because it's a 1 in 6 chance of which one you end up in. So, interestingly, I was just talking to a member of Omnipresence, big, endgame guild on Galanda, and they're doing, they're always doing raids at the highest difficulty they can push themselves to, and they do skip. He said they do skip the penalty boxes, which I found interesting. And I mean, that means if somebody falls, and it would be so easy to fall in this raid and end up down there by accident. I mean, if you just lagged out for a few seconds or something. But, technically speaking, like you said, these penalty boxes don't have to be done. We do clear them out because I always feel like, hey, someone's probably going to fall, and let's not have to have them fight their way out alone. Let's just clear them out and get them out of the way. That way, if people fall, then, it's cleared. Once it's cleared, it stays clear. If people fall later in the raid, they go down to a penalty box, but it's clear and they just walk out.
Yep. So the 6 rooms: Pit, STK, Giant Hole Tor, Dreaming Dark. What am I missing?
Deeps.
Into the Deeps. Which one? We're missing one. I'm always missing one.
Dreaming Dark, STK, Pit, Whiz King.
Whiz King, that's one we
Deep.
missed.
Okay.
This is what happens when you don't write things down. Promise, we know what we're talking about. So those are the 6 rooms that you have to deal with. The Pit is the one room you don't actually have to kill anything. You just have to make it up to the top and pull both levers. Note that that's a difference in how the quest itself actually works, because you only have to pull one of the levers in the actual Pit. This one, you have to pull both levers that are at the top. I believe it's the second furnace room. I think that's the one it is. I don't quite remember. For some reason, I hardly ever end up in the Pit room. Probably mostly because half the time I'm in this raid, I'm tanking, so I'm not going there anyways. And then I just never end up in the Pit room. So that's the Pit room. Whiz King, you just have to fight the very kind of end section. Do you have to fight the Djinn? I don't even remember. Again, I usually...
I don't remember if you have to, but I do know... I think you do. I do know that I've tried taking like the seals that you get from the side quests in Manectran to see if I could just use that to bypass the Djinn. You can't. Yeah. It does not work. So I tried it.
You actually either... So this is kind of a weird room, because you're going to fight either the Jackal, the Lion, or the Whiz King. You don't actually know which one of those ones you're going to get. It's randomized, which is kind of fun. If it's the Lion or the Jackal, the floor will break, and you'll end up down at the bottom, and there's a portal down there. If it doesn't break, you have to go back to the spawn point for a portal. If you've Whiz King, you have to go back to the spawn point for the portal to get out. Dreaming Dark is the last fight, the end fight. The big thing to note there is charisma damage is a thing. So watch out for that. You might end up with not being able to do anything because you have no charisma. Let's see. Giant Hole Tor is the acid, the fire, and black dragon. You do have to kill them together, just like Tor works. But otherwise, it's pretty basic mechanic there. STK is the end fight of part 3. It's the stone golem and 2 earth elementals. And then we're missing... and Into the Deeps is the optional boss fight at the end, the Hezroom. There's nothing other than... There's not really anything special going on with any of these rooms. Nothing crazy. The mechanics are all the same. All of the rooms are a little tougher than their normal version. They're kind of scaled up to the level of the raid, but they're not scaled up as boss fights, if that makes sense. They're all a lot easier than if they were just like the boss of the raid or something like that. Anything else you want to say about this room?
No, just the way we handle it. When the raid starts, we send the tank and the healer over to where the dragon is, and then everybody else just drops down, and they clear their penalty boxes, and we everybody says when they're area is clear, then they just type in chat, and then they come out and they just jump back down again and fall into another penalty box. And we keep doing that until we've confirmed that all 6 of them are clear. And remember, if they're cleared, they stay clear.
Yeah, and it's definitely useful to remember here that the typing is really helpful, because then you can look in your chat and you can see that it's there, right? It's done. So that can be really helpful.
Type it in. Once we've confirmed that all 6 of the penalty boxes are clear, then that group rejoins with the dragon, tank, and healer.
And you can kind of also kind of plan it out, right? Like if you know that, okay, there's 2 rooms that are left to do, and hey, do you guys need help in those rooms? No? Okay, we'll go work on the dragon, right? Like you can kind of plan that out a little bit too.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Okay. So that's kind of the first little part. Let's see. The first, let's talk about the dragon herself, and what you can kind of expect for her special attacks, as it were, and how to protect yourself. That sound like a good plan, and they'll kind of move through the different dragon phases. So she's got 2 breath weapons. One is a straightforward firing breath weapon in a line. The second one is a sweep, which is about 100. I think it's a little less than 180 degrees sweep, give or take. Both of those do electric damage, and I believe it's evil damage. Throughout the fight, she will also debuff the tank, or whoever's got aggro, with a stack that reduces your MRR, and it makes you more vulnerable to electric damage at the same time. That can stack up to 20, and it can really start to hurt if you don't manage that.
Yeah, it can be very painful. Dealing with that is clutch.
There is, when she does the straightforward firing breath weapon, there are audio cues that are hard to kind of explain, but she will also kind of pull her head back and then shoot straight forward. That's the more dangerous of the 2, because it hits more and it hits constantly. It is possible to dive out of the way. However, turning some of these islands, there's not a lot of room to do that, and also if you have a party around, then turning, I've found that trying to avoid that tends to do, like, sometimes she'll turn before, you'll go too early, she'll turn before she starts breathing, and hit more people, or when she resets, you're kind of out of position and relative to everyone else, and she spins, and bad things can happen. So if the party's around, I generally recommend that you sit there and you take it. The sweep one is a lot less deadly because it's more of a pass, and it'll hit you once, and you can heal yourself before it comes back and hits you again. So that's kind of how those mechanics work.
And these are the same as in riding the storm out if you've done that raid.
And I mean, they're the same for a lot of dragons too. The sweep is very similar to how Vela sweeps, and a lot of other dragons sweep. The straight shot as well is kind of a similar mechanic for dragons throughout the game. Me personally, what I like to do with my tank, normally I will have a heavy shield, and a weapon that kind of matches with that shield for more AC, everything like that. Using a heavy shield gives me a lot higher dodge than a tower shield does. I actually have a weapon set, though, that has the mirror shield? The absorption one from Wizard of Wines. And I have a weapon that has has electrical absorption on it. And I will switch to that weapon set when I know that she's about to use her breath weapon, because she's not going to hit me at the same time. So I actually switch between the 2, back and forth, and that kind of helps me manage and mitigate the damage based on what I'm taking at the time. So that's a way that you can kind of help with that part of it. She does have a backwards tail slap. Again, this is similar to RSO and many other dragons throughout the game. When that happens, if you want to make sure you're blocking. If you're attacking her from the rear, which is where you should be attacking, you don't know. Any time you're facing a dragon, if someone's tanking the dragon, don't attack from the front. Attack from the rear. Just kind of generally the safer place to be. But that tail slap will knock you down if you're not blocking. That's really important later with some of the environmental effects that are going on. See, what other things? Briefly talked about her debuff. If you keep her moving, you can actually, you can basically not, she won't do that debuff if she's kind of moving around a little bit. So if you're kind of turning her around, that can be a function that will help you kind of manage your stack. Again, that's hard to do when you're on a small island and there's other people around. In fact, it's pretty much impossible because you'll get them killed. So it's kind of more of a solo thing, or coordinate with your healer if there's just two of you. You can let them know that, hey, I need to clear my stack. I need to move around a little bit. You can do that. You can all.
And if the party's, go ahead.
Go ahead.
If the party's with you at that point, so like you said, if the party's with you, it's hard to move around. But what you can do is you probably have a second tank, because you kind of need a tank for the other, for the other portion when you get separated. So if the party's with you, that other tank is there. So what we like to do is just switch out with the other tank.
Exactly.
I need some relief. The primary dragon tank steps aside until the debuff times out, which is like 15 seconds, and then they just swap back.
Yep. That's totally a way to do it. The stack completely clears too. It's not a tick down. It's gone once you clear it. So that really helps.
Now, there is another way too that we've been experimenting with. This may not work on higher difficulties, but if you're alone, let's say the party's busy in the portals and it's just the tank and the healer out there, and you need to clear your stacks, you can actually both just jump down into the penalty boxes. Wait for it to time out, and then you go back. The ritual will start or continue, and you might lose up to like 10 to 15%. But if that's the only time you're losing, you can actually get away with doing that several times without failing the raid. Now, I've heard that that's not so successful on like Mid-Skull Reaper. I don't know how much.
So there's if you're going to higher difficulties, the reason why you can have problems with that is you can't take as many stacks. You're going to have to do it more often, which will be a problem.
Okay.
So that's kind of the problem. If you're not clearing the rooms, and you don't have this as an option either. The thing you cannot do is just jump into the air jets. She will zap you badly.
Yes, so
you need to fall off without Featherfall on if you're going to do that mechanic.
Exactly. You need to take Featherfall off so you're quickly out of there. Because if you have Featherfall on and you're falling slowly, she's going to keep hitting you with lightning strikes as you're falling. So if you're going to try this method, take Featherfall off.
Yep.
Hide in the penalty boxes. Wait for the electrical vulnerability to wear off, and then go back in.
Some other things that she will do is if aggro pulls from behind, she'll flip around and do a tail sweep kind of at the same time. There was a guide that was posted on the forums that said that she'll do this just anyways. It's tough for me to say if that's true or not, because I've always been able to intim her back, generally speaking, if intimidation is working correctly. But she will turn around. The fact of the matter is, in today's environment, if you're running this raid, you probably have some people that can put out some decent DPS. And Intimidate does not hold. It doesn't give you enough of a buffer to accommodate for how much damage some people can do here. So that she will kind of turn around and slap at people pretty good too. And then she'll turn around and slap at you. Stand Against the Tide can help you from getting knocked over. I typically don't run it as my tank because if you're blocking, she doesn't knock you over. So that's kind of how I tend to manage that. I don't know what you guys have liked to do for that, though.
I mean, I run and Stand Against the Tide, and yeah, the tank definitely is, it's good to know the tells and to block when she's doing certain attacks that
I
can
just
knock
block
you down.
the whole time. I really need an auto
know,
block key, like a toggle on, toggle off blocking key. Because I'm usually cycling through my fingers on the shift key.
You did mention like how you can move around to lose the stacks. If she's moving around, she doesn't stack you up as much. So what we've done there, and again, you're doing this if it's just you and the healer. If the party's there, you want to swap out with the other tank. But if it's just you and the healer and you can get away with moving around a little bit more, we've just like run in circles around the dragon, and that sometimes works, although it's not reliable.
I like to tumble. Actually, you can while you're tanking the dragon, you can actually get her in the spot if you tumble to one side, and then if you get just far enough, she'll just kind of do a half turn and jump over, and then as she's doing that, you can tumble back, and you'll kind of get her going back and forth, and she'll just kind of do that same thing over and over, which one means she's not using her breath weapon, she's not debuffing you, and it actually slows down her attack chain, so you take less damage. It's a little tricky to get into that spot, though. But that's kind of what I tend to do when I'm out there tanking. So, let's see, anything else? Oh, the other attack that she does a couple of things. One is you'll see her pull her wings in, and runes will fly around her. In RSO, they're yellow. Here, they're pink. When that happens, everyone needs to pull in tight. If you're not basically next to the dragon, you will get zapped a lot. I think it's like 4 or 5 zaps in a row, and it will probably kill most everyone. So you want to be watching out for that mechanic. Also, she doesn't do this. She also doesn't do that on every island. Also, something else she does not do on every island. You'll see, if you're familiar with the blue circles from Strahd, they're in a bunch of places. Mark of Death, that kind of thing. You'll see something similar. Actually, it looks more like, if you're familiar with Mark of Death, when he's doing there's a pulse attack that the Lady Vol does, and it basically makes a bunch of blue circles. You want to get outside of that. What the dragon does is a slam with an attack and hits everyone in that area with a lightning shot. That's pretty big. So that's a mechanic you kind of want to be aware of. And then
I'm not sure if I'm thinking of the same attack you are, but there's one where she drops 3 rings.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a countdown because it's 3, and then one will disappear, 2, and then 1, and then when they disappear, that's when she does her. The graphic shows Wail the Banshee, but it's, as far as I know, it's not an insta kill like Wail the Banshee.
No.
It's putting like a doom debuff on you that's you're taking constant damage. So here you really need to drink a curse pot if you get that.
There is definitely a separate mechanic than there's the wailing effect, which may happen in conjunction with the mechanic I'm talking about, but there's a part where she'll slam her hand down and zap everyone who's within the area of effect. What you're talking about is the wail thing, which I believe happens without those circles. But yes, you'll start taking damage, and it will be a curse damage, so that you can remove a curse pot. It shows the doom symbol is correct. That part, you drink a curse pot and it goes away. It's helpful to know about.
And that's a lot of damage. You really need to be on top of that. And it's people that are in melee range that are going to get that. People that are further out aren't going to get it. But if you get that, you need to drink a curse pot. The damage is intense. I think the attack you might be talking about, and I think she does this in RSO as well, if it's the one I'm thinking of, is when she rears up with one claw and she has like an electrical orb in it. And then she, with that orb, like pounces at the tank or slaps at the tank, and the tank goes flying if he's not blocking.
Yeah, it can. In RSO, I don't know if it does it in Killing Time, again, because I pretty much spend the entire time blocking, but that's the mechanic I was talking about, yes. And that's, as far as I've been able to tell, that's when you'll see those concentric circles as well, which I believe is giving you the blast radius of that attack. That's been my interpretation of what's going on. Hopefully it's correct. And then the last attack that I think is worth mentioning, she does a thing that... I can't remember the name of it now, but it like eats at your soul. I have not figured out exactly what it is that causes that or how to avoid it, but it doesn't do too much damage to you. So, and as far as I can tell, it only really hits the tank.
I'm not sure what attack you're referring
It's
to.
a green icon is the thing that, and it does damage that like bypasses your defenses or something to that effect. I don't see it very often, so it's not. It's kind of a tank, something that's hitting the tank. It's hitting you. It just does some damage over time, but I haven't been able to get rid of it. So
It's important to remember for everybody who's watching. Like this raid just came out just a couple months ago, maybe not even, and we're still learning and we're still refining tactics and strategies. So a year from now, there might be new methods that evolve.
Yep. All right, we're going to wrap it up for this time. We'll be back next week to talk about, we'll go farther into the raid and kind of cruise into more of the islands and kind of how some things change on the different islands and kind of that stuff. Anything you want to say before we head out?
Nope.
All right, so thanks for listening. You can join us next time. We'll be continuing our discussion on Killing Time. I want to thank Voodu or Ginger Spice for being here today. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. You can also find show notes, past shows, and more on our website. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates. I'm at DDOCast on Twitter. If you'd like to join the discussion, leave a comment or email us at ddocast@gmail.com. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.